Okay, so today we're going to start something a bit different and we're going to look at the equation of a circle. And so we're going to look at how would we write the equation of a line when that line creates a circle. So we're going to look at this circle here, and obviously it's got the centre at the origin and it's got a radius of r. So the radius, I'm just going to say, is r. And we're going to look at a point on that circle. And if I think about the coordinates of this point, I'm going to say it's just got the coordinates x, y. So if I go down here, I've dropped my line down here, that's at x, and it's at a height of y. And if I use Pythagoras, I can say, if I create this triangle, I'll do it in a different colour, triangle here, and I use Pythagoras on this triangle. Well, the length of the base of this triangle is x because it's going from the origin to x. The height of this triangle is y because again it's going from the origin up to y. And the radius is r. The hypotenuse of this triangle has got a length of r. And using good old Pythagoras, we can say x squared plus y squared equals r squared. And that is always true. So if I had a circle of radius 5, I would say x squared plus y squared is equal to 5 squared, which was 25. If I had a radius of 7, I would write the equation of that circle at the centre would be x squared plus y squared equals 49. So if we've got the equation of a circle where the centre is the origin, it's x squared plus y squared equals r squared, and that's a standard equation. But most circles are not at the centre. So in this case, I've got a circle again with a radius of r, but its centre is at the coordinates a, b. But again, I'm going to look at any point on that circle, and I'm going to draw a triangle again using the radius as the hypotenuse. Now, the x coordinate is x and the y coordinate is y, so I can put those on my x and my y axes. And I have to think, what is the length of this base of this triangle? Well, it's simply going to be x take away a. What is the height of this triangle? And it's just going to be y take away b. So again, looking at that right angle triangle, I can say x take away a squared, the base squared, plus y take away b squared, which is the height squared, must equal the radius squared. And you're going, yeah, but isn't that only true if it's on sort of like it makes a triangle like that? So we're going to do a different one. So I'm going to try and delete everything that I've done in here. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. And I'm going to imagine that I'm going to use a point somewhere else. So I'm going to do a point, say, here. Again, that's got the coordinates x, y, where this is x and this is y. And so I'm going to have to move where my radius is. So with a line, I'm going to put, there's my radius. And if I make my triangle, it's going to look like this. And again, now I've got a right angled triangle, so I can say the base squared plus the height squared is the radius squared. So what is the length of the base? Now the length of the base this time is a take away x. But let's think about what happens when I do a take away x squared. Now, let's have an example of some numbers, because if I had 5 take away 2 squared, that would make 3 squared, which would be 9. What happens if I had 2 take away 5 squared? Well, that would just be minus 3 squared, which would just be 9. Let's try a different example. If I had 4 take away 10 squared, that would be minus 6 squared, which would be 36. Well, what about 10 take away 4 squared? That's just going to be 6 squared, which equals 36. So actually, we have this situation where a take away x squared is exactly the same as x take away a squared. So again, my equation for my circle is actually going to be the same, because I'm going to have the base squared, which I can write as x take away a squared. I am going to have my height squared, which is just y take away b squared, equals r squared. And that wouldn't matter if I chose a point down here, over here, it wouldn't matter. The equation for the points on a circle is always x minus a squared plus y minus b all squared equals r squared. So x minus a squared plus y minus b squared equals r squared, where the centre is at the point A, B, and the radius is r. Now, one thing you've got to note is this is x take away a when the centre is at the point A. Notice a difference in the sign. This is minus b at the point when the centre is B. So, let's think about this now. If I said I've got an equation for a circle which is x minus 2 all squared plus y minus 3 all squared equals 25, then I know that my A must be my 2, my B must be my 3, and this is where people make the mistake, r squared equals 25. So that means the centre is at the point 2, 3, and the radius is effectively the square root of 25, because I need to know what squared makes 25, so the radius is 5. Now, this is when it gets a bit tricky, because the equation says x minus a, but adding 5 is exactly the same as taking away minus 5, because taking away negative is the same as adding. So for this one, my centre is going to be at the point minus 5, 2. That's okay, isn't it? Because I've got y minus 2 and y minus b, so b is just 2. And again, the radius is going to be the square root of 64, which is 8. And again, with this last one, I've got to say that's the same as x take away minus 3 all squared. So my centre is at the point minus 3. If I look at the y, that's the same as y take away minus 2/3. So that means my y coordinate is 2/3. So it's got a centre of minus 3 and minus 2/3. And the radius, well, 8 is not a square number, so we say it's the square root of 8, which if I tidy up, because it's always nice to tidy things up, which is 2 root 2. So it's got a radius of 2 root 2. Right, now, quite often we have a more traditional form of the equation of a circle, and it looks like this. It might be x squared plus 4x plus y squared minus, that should be 8y minus 5 equals 0. Or it might look like this, x squared plus y squared plus 2x plus so many y minus a number equals 0 again. And for this one, I've got to work out what is the centre and the radius. Now, it's not obvious. This form was brilliant. It was in the form where it tells me the centre and it tells me the radius. But this doesn't. The minus 5, you can't think of that as telling you anything to do with the radius, because it doesn't. What you could do is you could take that minus 5 over and say equals 5, but it's still not in the correct form to tell me what the radius is. And it doesn't tell me what the centre is, because this is not x minus a all squared. And now we've got to think back to something that we did a few weeks ago, and we have to complete the square. So I have to take this x squared plus 4x and complete the square on it. And I know x squared plus 4x is x plus 2 all squared, take away, 2 squared. Okay? because if you remember when I expand that, I'll just do a quick example. If I expand x plus 2 times x plus 2, it gives me x squared plus 2x plus 2x plus 4. And it gives me an extra plus 4 that I don't want because I only want this bit. So I have to take away that extra 2 squared. When I do the same with the y, I've got to complete the square in terms of y. So that becomes y minus 4 all squared. But again, that's going to give me an extra 16. So I need to take away 4 squared equals 5. Now I'm almost there. I've got x plus 2 all squared. And I'm going to put the y minus 4 all squared next to it. I'm going to put the minus 4, because that's 2 squared, and the minus 16 equals 5. And now all I've got to do is move these to that side of the equation. And I'd get x plus 2 all squared plus y minus 4 all squared equals 25, because I'd add the 4 and add the 16. So guess what? I can now, I've got it in the form that I want. So I can say the centre is at minus 2, 4. Remember, it's that different sign because that's the same as saying x take away minus 2. And the radius is 5. Right, I'll do one more example of these. And this one, you've almost got to sort of like slightly rearrange it first because you need the x's together. So I'd say x squared plus 2x. And then you're going to put the y's together plus y squared plus 4. And I'd probably add the 20 at this point. And I'd just rearrange it. And I've left myself a bit of a gap because you'll see. And then I complete the square on the x's. So I'd have x plus 1 squared take away the 1. Because I've got that extra 1 squared. And then I'd complete the square on the y. So I'd have y plus 2 all squared take away the 2 squared equals 20. So I'd have x plus 1 squared plus y plus 2 all squared. And I've got a take away 1 and a take away a 4 equals 20. So guess what? X plus 1 all squared plus y plus 2 all squared equals 25. So again, I've got a radius of 5 in this case, just like the one above. But my centre is at the point minus 1 minus 2. Because remember, the equation of a centre is x minus a. So that's the same as x minus minus 1. That's the same as y take away minus 2. So my centre is at minus 1 minus 2. And my radius is again 5. And now the only final thing to do is sometimes they'll give you the centre, they'll give you the radius, and they'll want you to put it in the form x squared plus y squared plus ax plus by plus c equals 0. And so what you've got to do is you've got to write it in the equation form where it tells you the centre and the radius. And I know that x minus a squared plus y minus b squared equals r squared. So I've got to do that form first. Now, that would be x minus 2, because I know the centre is at 2, plus y minus 5, sorry I forgot the squares, equals 6 squares. And what I've got to do here is I'm going to scrub that one out, because we would just write it like this. We would just go x minus 2 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 6 squared. And then I've got to expand these brackets out. Now, the one thing I will say, you need to get into the habit of being able to see how to square a bracket quite quickly. And this is going to be x squared. You're going to have a minus 2x and a minus 2x, so that gives you minus 4x's, so it almost doubles. And then 2 times 2, or minus 2 times minus 2, is 4. So you get x squared minus 4x plus 4. If you do your y, you end up with y squared minus 10y plus 25 equals 36. And then you collect all the terms on the left-hand side together and do it as x squared plus y squared, because it wants those two first, minus 4x minus 10y. And then you've got plus 4 plus 25 take away 36. So you've got 29 take away 36, which is minus 7 equals 0. Okay. And one more like this. So again, you write it in the form of x minus a squared plus y minus b squared equals r squared first. So you get x minus 3 squared plus y minus minus 1 squared equals root 10 squared. Now, this becomes y plus 1 squared, because taking away negative is the same as adding 1. So you end up with x squared minus 6x plus 9. Practice that and you'll get as quick as me. Plus y squared plus 2y plus 1 equals 10. Don't accidentally do 100 there, because remember, root 10 squared is just 10. And then you get it all to the left hand side by taking away 10 and writing it in the order that they want it. X squared plus y squared minus 6x plus 2y. And actually you've got 9 plus 1 is 10. And take away 10 is nothing. So actually you just write equals 0. Okay. So here we go. Here's a few for you to have a go at. So find the centre and radius for the first one. And then the second one, you're given the centre and the radius and you want to write it in that form of the equation of a circle. Press pause, have a go, and press play when you've done to see the answers. Okay, so here's the answers to the first one. So you should have got a centre of 3 minus 1 and a radius of 5. Again, I must like my radiuses and 5s for a minute. The second one, you should have got a centre of 3 minus 5 and a radius of 7. Remember, you can press pause on these if I'm going too fast, just to look. And the third one, you should have had a centre of minus 2 and a radius of 4. Now for question 2, you have to do it the opposite way. So hopefully you add x squared plus y squared plus 6x minus 4y minus 36 equals 0. Number 2, x squared plus y squared minus 8x minus 9 equals 0. Now that's the one where you actually end up with no y's. Okay, because when you expand y minus 1 squared, effectively you're just doing y squared. And then the final one, just be careful when you're squaring your 3 root 6. Okay, because that's squaring the 3 and squaring the root 6. So you end up with 9 times 6 is 54. But you should have ended up with x squared plus y squared plus 4x plus 12y minus 19 equals 0. Okay, have a go at the worksheet on Edmodo, and I'll see you next lesson.